Now I'm talking about the chapter energy. Almost all the components of these energy sources are previously done. I described them, but few are left and some important facts. We have to go through them also. So I'm talking about these few points. Let's talk about this. Alternative sources of energy. What it mean? Alternative sources of energy. We can say that all the sources of energy which can be used to replace the use of fossil fuel are called alternative sources of energy. Well, we can use those sources which can be used for to replace fossil fuel. If a source of energy is used to replace this fossil fuel, then that is alternative source of energy. And mainly alternative sources of energy are renewable sources of energy, just like hydroelectricity, and we can say biofuel also. In the same way, we can say other also the wind energy and this tidal energy, etc., etc. These are alternative sources of energy which can be used to replace the fossil fuel. Okay. Now let's talk about the second one. Solar energy is the major source of energy. How can we say so? There are two major points. I'm talking about solar energy. How can we say that solar energy is one of the major source of energy? We can say 2 points. Number one, all other sources of energy are direct or indirect consequence of solar energy. This is one important point. How can we say that solar energy is the major source of energy? Because all other sources of energy, whether it is fossil fuel or it is biofuel or it is geothermal energy or all other sources of energy are direct or indirect consequence of solar energy, especially hydroelectricity. So this is the major source of energy, we can say so. And another point also we can see, just like surface of the earth remains surface of earth remains warm due to solar energy. What it means? Surface of the earth remains warm due to solar energy, so the life of plant is possible, life of animal is possible, and we also can survive because of this warm and humid climate of the earth. And this is the gift of what? Sun. That's why solar energy is the major source of energy. Now let's talk about third point. Fossil fuel is one of the consequence of solar energy. How can we say fossil fuel is one of the consequence of solar energy? We can say, describe like this. Fossil fuel means what? Fossil fuel means what? They are either coal or petroleum or what? Natural gas. These are fossil fuel. And coal and petroleum are fossil fuel. We can say natural gas also comes along with the petroleum. That's why coal, petrol, and natural gas are fossil fuel. Coal forms from the plant body, and petroleum and natural gas forms from the plant and animals of the sea in the course of millions of years in the earth crust. Plants survive with the help of sunlight, which they require in the process of what? Photosynthesis. Animals survive by feeding plant Plants survive by the photosynthesis process, animals survive by the feeding plant. Since fossil fuel forms from the fossil of plant and animal, hence it is one of the consequence of what? Solar energy. And that's why we can say that fossil fuel is one of the consequence of solar energy. Now let's talk about fourth point. Step to conserve energy at home. What is the meaning of this? Step to conserve. How can we conserve energy in national level, international level, and scientific method? That is another matter. But now we are talking about how can we conserve energy at home. What sort of method can be used to conserve energy at home? We can say this way. If we have to write any 2 points, we can say number one, using CFL and LED bulbs. These bulbs have the very low power, and that's why they consume very less amount of electrical energy. So by using this, instead of using high power bulbs, we can conserve energy at home, in home level, personal level. Number two, instead of open pot, using pressure cooker. We can use pressure cooker instead of what? Open pot. Why? Because the cooking becomes faster in pressure cooker and energy can be saved. This can be taken as home level, I mean to say personal level of conservation of energy. Now let's talk about sometimes radioactive elements. In examination, you may be asked to write any name of any two radioactive elements. You can say the number one. Number one, we know uranium. Uranium is used as source of nuclear energy. Number two, plutonium. We can say another name, plutonium. If you are told to write any two name of the radioactive elements. Reason of extreme use of petrol. All of we know that petrol is non-renewable source of energy. Even after this, why petrol is used all over the world? Why? Because number one, we can say number one, it is multi-purpose fuel. Multi-purpose fuel. Multi-purpose fuel means it is used in vehicles also. It can be used to run this generator also. It is used to run different machinery also. That's why it is multi-purpose fuel, and that's why it is used widely. And it can be transported easily. It can be transported easily. Now, what it means transported easily? If we have to transport from one country to another country, we can transport petrol through pipeline also. This is easy way of transportation. Just pumping them, it can be transported from one country to another country. In the machinery also, if we take it in a tank, which is placed a little at the upper side, and a pipeline is connected to it, and the pipeline goes up to the engine, then the continuous transportation of the petrol can be made to the engine, and transportation in the engine also easier, and transportation from one place to another place is also easier. That's why it is used extremely. And these are a few questions which may come in examination. That's why I focused on this. But I want to introduce one another matter. Look at this. This is exercise. If you want to do, you go through this exercise. This is very important, and there define following terms. There are many terms given. You can define or introduce this term energy crisis, alternative source of energy, nuclear energy, tidal, biofuel, nuclear reaction. There are 26 terms. You can define them or you can introduce them, search them. If you don't know, in previous class also I told about this. And beside this, look at this, write down differences between. All these questions are related to what? This chapter, energy chapter, and that's why I'm talking about this. Answer the following questions. Some of the questions are very easier. Look at this. Name two types of sources of energy. You can write just renewable source of energy and non-renewable sources of energy. But maybe some of the questions may be a little difficult for you. Mention the surface temperature and temperature of central part of the sun. This is just the information. How tidal energy is used to get electricity, etc. Now, some of the question may be a little different. In future, the hydroelectricity will be main alternative source of energy. Why? Justify with reason. The nuclear power plant pollutes the environment. How it is possible? How it pollutes the environment? These are some questions. And E equal to mc square. What is it? What is the meaning of this? And give reason for the following statement. These are the important statement which you can answer, and you can prepare yourself for the examination, and you will be very clear in this chapter, energy source or energy, today this much.